Now let's look ahead to the future. This is a player that we've not talked about in a hot minute simply because there just hasn't been a lot of news to discuss here, and that is five-star prospect Caleb Wilson. He is currently projected to commit to Kentucky basketball. I'm on record saying I would be surprised if he went elsewhere, especially at this point in the cycle. You go and look at On3, he is the number 5 overall player, number 2 power forward, and the best player coming out of the state of Georgia. 6'9", near 200-pound power forward who can handle the basketball. He can shoot a little bit. He is known as a more efficient offensive contributor whenever you have a star to place him beside, which I think Kentucky's got a couple in their backcourt coming in next season, and Jasper Johnson and Acaden Lewis, and he plays that combo forward type role. He's a really good passer. He can play inside-outside defense, and that's really what his calling card has been. He averages 3.8 stocks per game, at least he did during the EYBL circuit that he most recently participated in. Stocks is blocks and steals per game. And he has really made a massive surge here defensively, and it's drawn a lot of attention when it comes to scouting reports, when it comes to what he could do projecting out to the NBA. Yes, he is not the most efficient player, but he can shoot threes. He is very explosive at the rim, obviously at 6'9", 195 pounds, and the defense just so good. That's what you want to focus on here. Really, really good defensive, versatile prospect. With the two additions that Kentucky has in their backcourt in both Acaden Lewis and Jasper Johnson, known as scorers, you love to see that the front court, Caleb Wilson paired alongside Malachi Marino, who is a very well-rounded, also really solid defender and rebounder. You really love to see that kind of contrast there. You've got different players that can play off of each other in a variety of ways, and Mark Pope has really impressed me with the way that he's kind of done roster construction already with this team that Kentucky currently has, and looking ahead to the future, I'm very impressed with how he's gone out and managed every single position, essentially, outside of small forward for the 2025 class. Will Wilson commit to Mark Pope and Kentucky basketball? Well, there's no current news on Caleb Wilson, but Kentucky commits guard Acaden Lewis recently had an interview with On3, and they discussed him. And I'll read here a bit of the transcript. You can go find this at on3.com as well. This is what On3 and Lewis had to say. On3 asked, Caleb Wilson is still out there, uncommitted, and Kentucky is involved. Do you talk with him at all? Lewis said, we talk a lot, really, and not even about the Kentucky thing. I'm just giving him my advice and what I felt with Kentucky and hearing how he feels with different schools and situations. Obviously, I want him to come, but I also want him to do what's best for him, and so wherever he ends up, I'll be proud of him. On3 asked, why do you think Caleb Wilson would be a good fit at Kentucky? Lewis said, the quick pace they play with, their base and pass. I think he would learn how to play off the ball. He's pretty ball dominant where he's at now, but he can play off the ball, and I don't think people see that. Like the Knight Riders role he stepped into late in the EYBL season. I think at Kentucky, he would start there and then continue the momentum he had at Peach Jam to Kentucky. On3 asked, so where do you think Caleb Wilson goes? Lewis said, honestly, I don't know. That's my guy and everything, but he's kind of been keeping all of that under wraps, and I don't want to just pry info out of him. But hopefully, he's coming to Kentucky. Acaden Lewis, a really solid southpaw that Kentucky's picked up in their 2025 class, 4-star guard, paired with 5-star guard Jasper Johnson, who is also a lefty. Both these guys really, really solid on ball, and I think that that's something interesting that Acaden Lewis notes there, is that Caleb Wilson can be more efficient off the ball. I actually had not even gotten to that point of Lewis's quote whenever I told you just a minute ago. Wilson has shown during the EYBL circuit that he can play very well when paired with a star. And I'll reiterate again, it looks like Kentucky's going to have those guys on their roster next season, pending what you do in the transfer portal as well. So Kentucky's putting themselves in a very, very, very good position. Even if they don't get Lewis, which I expect them to do so, the Wildcats should be returning to the form that they are currently in next season. They should be high octane. They should be fast. They should be explosive. They should be able to take and make threes at a pretty solid rate. They should be playing good defense. Somebody like Caleb Wilson can absolutely contribute to that. So Caleb Wilson, is he going to come to Kentucky? All signs right now point to him doing so. Again, Lewis is not trying to get information out of Wilson. Obviously, they talk about it like he says. It doesn't seem like he's going to go anywhere else. On3 has the next closest team projected to get him in their RPM, their recruiting prediction machine, it's Auburn at 5%, a 5% chance to get him. Tennessee is at 4.3, North Carolina at 3.6, Kentucky, though, at 74.5% right now. I think the Cats get him, and I think that it completes what is looking like one of the nation's best recruiting classes in the entire country. Right now, they rank 5th. Does Kentucky, with Marino, Johnson, and Lewis all already signed, all top 30 players, bucket getters, really solid, high floor type guys that I am super excited about. Lewis, Johnson, and Marino. Caleb Wilson could be the 4th guy there. I'm very curious to see how Kentucky fills out the roster outside of these 4 guys, because they're all very good. Like, they're all very, very good players. I'm curious to see if you go for more experienced transfer guys and you see some of those ending up starting over maybe a couple of these freshmen. Do you see Kentucky go extremely young next year? I'm not quite sure how they're going to do it, but I'm really excited about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. That's the latest update on Caleb Wilson. Lewis talks to him a lot. He's projected to come to Kentucky. I think Caleb's going to end up coming to Kentucky. All right, I want to get to a hot take prediction about Lamont Butler here. Normally on Mark It Down, we do a prediction for the upcoming week, but I want to give a prediction for the rest of the season, actually, on Lamont Butler. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at TNT. That's right, TNT. It's that time of year, and the college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. And TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action by watching the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, wrapping up the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Daw hanging out here with you. Mark It Down, the weekly segment that we like to do. Let's go ahead and throw up that stamp. I absolutely love doing that. I can't get enough of it. If you're listening on podcast, you can hear the little stamp down. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it as well. I think it's kind of fun. But we like to do, during our weekly Mark It Down segment, a hot take prediction for the upcoming week. I'm giving you one for the rest of the season right here. Mark it down, ladies and gentlemen. Lamont Butler will lead Kentucky basketball in scoring this year. You heard me correctly. I believe that Lamont Butler will end up finishing the season leading Kentucky basketball in points per game. This is coming from the man who also just told you that he is not the most efficient player on this roster, despite shooting over 60% from the floor right now. As of this moment, Lamont is averaging 15 points per game alongside 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 1.3 steals, while only averaging 1.4 turnovers per game. Again, I keep reiterating myself in this episode, he's had some poor shooting performances this year, but he's also had some really good ones. And it was highlighted by the most recent game where he went 10 of freaking 10. Do I think 10 of 10 is happening again? No. Do I think he's going to have some poor performances from here on out that kind of lower his statistics here? Possibly. But I'm also going to bank on him having some really good scoring performances in the future. There are going to be teams like Louisville that Kentucky faces in their SEC slate that are really, really hard to get by, that are physical, that can take threes, that can make them, but they also have some mismatch issues against Butler and Kentucky's guards, and I think that Butler's going to be able to execute. You also have to factor in here the fact that Kirk Carissa is out for possibly another 5.5 to 6+ weeks. It's going to give Butler more playing time at guard. You're going to see him stand out. I really do believe so. While Carissa's out, I think Butler's really going to step into a scoring role, a more aggressive role, and you're going to see that points per game not necessarily continue to go up, but it's going to hold at about 15 to 15.5 points. Otega at 15.7, I think you're going to see him probably continue to be consistent scorer on this team. But I think at some point, Butler's going to beat him out, and he's going to hold that, and Butler is going to lead this Kentucky team in scoring. That is my hot take prediction for you. You can mark that down. Really, really like this prediction. I think it's a fun one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is it too hot of a prediction? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who do you think is going to lead this Kentucky team in scoring this year?